Hey, brothers and sisters of Grand Ledge Baptist. It's good for us to think about the Psalms today. We're looking at Psalm 142. And over the last few years, and really for all of time, being a refugee is considered a bad thing. Like we don't want to be a refugee. It's not a good place to be. You're fleeing a place of safety, a place of comfort, a place that you know well, and you're in between that and another place of security. And so you're looking for refuge. And so this idea of being a refugee, someone who is stuck in no man's land, is not a pleasant idea. But I wonder, as we think about Psalm 142, if there is good that comes out of being a refugee. And so, not the exact same way as we think of someone in a camp, but maybe just a little bit. We should think about this. So, Psalm 142 is a psalm where David is a refugee. He is in a cave, literally, not just figuratively, but he is in a cave. He's in an actual cave, and he is between being a shepherd boy and a king. He is in between the safety and security of what he grew up with and his eventual fulfillment as being the king of Israel. And so he's in between, he's in a cave, he's being pursued, and he is all alone. And so he cries out to God. 142, look at it. I cry aloud to the Lord, I lift my voice to the Lord for mercy, I pour out my complaint before him, I tell my trouble. When my spirit grows faint within me, it is you who watches over my way. In the path where I walk, people have hidden a snare for me. Look and see. This is where he talks about being alone. He says, look and see, there is no one at my right hand. No one is concerned for me. I have no refuge. No one cares for my life. I cry to you. And so he's alone, and he doesn't feel like anyone is with him or cares about him. And so my question to you as we think about the psalm is, where do you turn when you're a refugee, when you're alone, when you're in a cave, I guess we could say, when you're in between good places? Where do you turn? And I think there's a few places that we turn that are not God. There are a few places we turn that we look for refuge that aren't really helpful. They maybe bring small amounts of refuge, but don't deliver in the long run. Like, for example, we look for refuge in our own ability, and so we can fix it. We can find a solution. We say, I can navigate this. I've got this under control. And so we look inward, and we think we have the solutions from within. So that's one way we look for refuge in escape. So just give me another beer, give me a big bowl of ice cream, give me a day at the casino, where's my phone, and just endlessly scrolling as an escape. If we can just get our minds off of our bad situation, our in-between situation, we think that this escape will bring us comfort in our time of trouble. A third way we look for refuge is just plain old denial. If I can go back to bed, if I can just stay busy, if I can ignore it, then the problem will go away. We just put the blinders on and we don't acknowledge it. And this is a way of finding refuge. Or another way that you may relate to is we look for refuge in control. If I can get everything else in my life in order, if I can crack down on all the variables in all the other places of life, then I can feel a sense of safety, a predictable routine. That's where I find refuge. But the psalm moves us to not look to ourselves for refuge, but to look to God. And so he cries aloud to the Lord, right? This helps. The psalm helps move us in the right direction. He cries aloud to the Lord. I lift my voice to the Lord. I cry to you. Listen to my cry. Rescue me. These are all movements towards God, movements toward finding refuge in him and not our own devices, our own ways. I love the twist at the end of the psalm, how in his aloneness in the cave, he anticipates that God is going to bring him to a place where he isn't alone. But listen, it's verse 6. Listen to my cry, for I am in desperate need. Rescue me from those who pursue me, for they are too strong for me. Set me free from my prison, that I may praise your name. Then the righteous will gather about me because of your goodness to me. And so he seeks God as his refuge. But what does God give him? He gives him, in what David anticipates, is being surrounded by the people of God. No longer alone, no longer unprotected, no longer no one looking out for him, but God bringing that kind of care through the people of God to David's life. And so he anticipates, he redirects. I love what Eugene Peterson says about this psalm. I really enjoy this psalm, praying with the Psalms, a year of daily prayers and reflections on the word of David by Eugene Peterson. But here's what he says about this psalm. Trouble does its best work when it drives us to God. The discovery that other people cannot or will not help us is not a disaster if, at the same time, it shows us that God both can and will help. That we are abandoned by others is not the last straw so much as the first step to the realization that God is our help and salvation. And so maybe being a refugee in the context of Psalm 142 is not really a bad thing. Yeah, it's not a pleasant thing. It's not a wonderful thing. It's not something that we look for or seek out or grab a hold of. But when we find ourselves in the cave, in the place of in between, maybe that's God's way of helping us run to him as refugees, to him who is our refuge. Think about that. God bless. Have a great day.